My name is Sean Touhig, and I studied at the Documentary Photography School from 1986 to 1988. I now live and work in Singapore. This is the Singapore River, where a lot of couples go to on a Sunday afternoon to have their wedding pictures taken. And I work now here as the multimedia editor of one of the national newspapers, which is a kind of slightly over-poncified title really for a picture editor who also shoots and edits video. When I was lucky enough to be selected for the course, I had a dim inkling that it was a kind of life-changing moment, but I didn't really know what that change would entail, because coming from the kind of background that I had, I was born and brought up in Pontypool, which is about 10 miles from Newport, and it's a fairly typical kind of Welsh post-industrial ex-mining town with fairly small town attitudes to match, I suppose. And the idea of success, if that's how you want to kind of define it, has always been very socially prescribed. You know, even my parents, they were very keen for me to get on, like a lot of parents are, but it's very much within the context of becoming a doctor or, you know, a lawyer, that kind of stuff. So I was a kind of crushing disappointment to my parents when they discovered that I wasn't particularly academically inclined, but that I was a kind of arty child. So my kind of interest in photography grew out of a parallel interest in politics. The tail end of my school years took place during the miners' strike, and I was very interested in the peace movement, the anti-nuclear movement. The whole cruise missile issue was very important when I was a teenager. So the political sphere in Britain was very fractious at the time, and you know, I started off shooting pictures on, you know, the kind of demos and kind of, you know, protests that I would attend, and that's how my kind of interest in photojournalism kind of grew. The two major things I think that the course taught me, above and beyond the kind of technical aspects of photography and that kind of thing, really can be, I think, kind of boiled down into one of David Hearn's kind of famous dictums, which I'm sure other students will repeat as well, in which he used to talk about how, you know, being a photojournalist and having this little device around your neck with a piece of glass on the front of it gave you this kind of tremendous excuse to, you know, be nosy and be curious about other people's lives. And about other cultures and about other ways of looking at the world. For me, of course, it was not only the fact of having the camera, but having the confidence to be able to use it, and knowing that this kind of pursuit was possible, that it was viable. As I said, you know, a kid coming from my background, the idea that, you know, you could actually travel around the world and experience other people's lives and cultures, you know, simply because you happen to have this box around your neck, and having the kind of, you know, self-confidence of being able to use it was a total revelation to me. When I left the course, I became a full-time photojournalist and kind of pursued the life of a photojournalist for about 16 years until 2006, when I had a bad accident shooting a video, ironically, and after a year's recovery, essentially found that through no fault of my own, I'd kind of morphed careers from being a full-time photojournalist to being a full-time kind of video editor and camera operator. So that's pretty much what I've been ever since. Other people may disagree, but I don't see it as a huge departure from what I used to do. But the same kind of rules apply. I now find myself training interns at the newspaper in photography and video, and whenever I find myself kind of scratching my head and struggling as to how I'm going to inculcate some knowledge about how to do this, I fall back upon, you know, the person at work picture and the relationship picture and the portrait and the 3-picture story and the 5-picture story and all of that kind of basic visual grammar that we were taught that you know, enabled us to kind of pursue this kind of life. Now this gives me cause for reflection somewhat, in maybe a way that I never have done before. I really am incredibly kind of grateful and still slightly stunned at the kind of opportunity that getting that sort of academic lottery ticket kind of gave me. I literally wouldn't have the kind of life that I have now. I wouldn't be living here now, and I wouldn't have the kind of accumulated kind of life experience that I have now that's taken me a very, very long way, physically and metaphorically, from the small sort of Welsh mining town that I grew up in. I really do shudder to think what I would be doing now if I hadn't have been lucky enough to have been selected for the course. I suspect I'd probably be propping up a bar somewhere, trying to sell you my watch.